Alright, hello. For today, my Discord members asked me if I could make a Wolf Sledge video. And I have a pretty good Wolf Sledge build already ready for me to showcase to the people. So basically, let's go to the simulacrum, explain the weapons mechanics, and showcase its capabilities. Because Wolf Sledge is not really a normal weapon. It's a hammer that kinda plays like a glaive, and it's very special in my opinion. Usually with hammers you would want to go ahead and slam attack. Like most of them, what you do is you go to the slam attack playstyle, because in case you don't know, if we look at the stats of the Wolf Sledge, we will see that just like all hammers, it has 40% follow through. In case you don't know what follow through is, basically if you swing your hammer once and it hits 3 targets, the first target will take full damage, the second target will take 40% of your damage, and the third target will take 40% of the damage that was dealt to the second target. So in total, you're looking at basically no damage after you hit like 6 targets, maybe 7. Basically, if this stat is very low, your weapon becomes way worse at dealing with light attacks. If you light attack, if you do Tenokai, if you do all that, you would want the stat to be at least 60%, maybe 70. The higher the better, but only a few weapons have 100%, and most weapons that are really good at doing light attack spam have 90%. And this is changed depending on the category of the weapon. Hammers have 40%, for example, fists have 90%, so do sparring weapons. I think 200 Nikanas have 60%, single swords also have 60%, and etc. Depending on what weapon category you will have a different follow through. Warhands, for example, have 70%, heavy blades 60%, scythes 60%. In general, the average you will see is 60%, but hammers do have the lowest one at 40%. So that's why on hammers you usually do slam attacks. But on the Wolf Sledge, it has a unique trait that for some reason is not written here, which is really weird, where when you simply heavy attack, it's normal, but if you hold E down like a glaive, it throws it similarly to how you throw glaives. And not only does it throw it, it explodes on impact, and you can manually explode it whenever you want by pressing the alt fire button, similar to the glaives. So, abusing this mechanic, you can simply make the Wolf Sledge explode twice. Like that. And the very important part about the Wolf Sledge that I haven't mentioned is that it deals innate blast damage. I'm not sure if it's a guaranteed blast proc or it's just the status chance of the Wolf Sledge being high on its own. I think the latter, because it does have really decent status chance, but in my opinion, this is one of the weapons that got requested because I was talking about melee influence, and this is the only hammer that basically wants to build melee influence, aside from the Arca Titron maybe, which even the Arca Titron you wouldn't really go for melee influence, you would go for something else since it has a lot of range, and you can't really proc melee influence if the target dies outright with the attack, which most of the time they do. So this is pretty much the only hammer that you would want to go for melee influence, and it's the hammer that you wanna do the weirdest build, as you don't really care about attack speed ever, you only care about heavy attack wind up speed and all that good stuff. This is my Riven. Instead of the Riven, you could probably go for Gladiator Might. Gladiator Might will give you some crit chance and then mostly the critical damage needed. Status duration doesn't really matter, it's kind of a dead start for the Riven. I could get a better Riven than this, way better one, especially because the disposition is 4 out of 5 peeps, but it is what it is. I think the one thing that people will immediately ask is, do I need Smite mode? And I think Smite mode is basically a must-have on this weapon. Not gonna lie, it makes a huge difference, because, for example, you saw me fight those guys, right? They're Origin. So if I change this to Smite Origin right now and fight the exact same guys again, the damage difference will be quite significant, as you can see. So no, I don't think you should skip Smite mode on this one by any means. You should just straight up use it. And if you don't have it, then You can use the alternative of Corrupt Charge, since combo counter multiplies the damage of your heavy attack. Corrupt Charge will work kinda fine. It will increase your combo counter but to 6 times instead of 5 times when you max it out. But obviously the starting damage will be not as great as the smite mode. However, when you stack it, it is still really good. So if you don't want to use smite mode, you can use Corrupt Charge, but I would still suggest going for the smite mode. Gonna go back, and now that we know the build, let's showcase it on an actual mission. Obviously, you cannot use smite mode on things like Elite Temporal Archimedia, as enemies there are not really, they don't really have any modifier mode, like any Bane mode as we call them. So on those cases, you would probably want to do Initial Combo and Gladiator Might instead of the Riven mode. I'm gonna showcase on this survival mission. It's a Neo Fisher, which for some reason is lower level than the original mission. What the hell? I didn't notice that. Wait, what? Why is it lower level? Okay. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. 10 level difference, it doesn't make any difference, especially on Steel Path. Steel Path is basically the same regardless of what you use. And yeah, this, just like every glaive, has all the glaive advantages. So for example, if you have an ability like Chroma's Vex Armor or Limbo's Rift Torrent Augment, those damages will be multiplicative onto the throw attack of this weapon. But unlike glaive weapons, this melee sadly cannot use the modes of Volatile Rebound, Volatile Quick Return, Whirlwind, Power Throw that we just got now. It doesn't use any glaive related modes. Not that it needs them, to be honest. It is very strong on its own, and it has a hefty 5-meter explosive radius on this throw, so it does get the job done. But yeah, the important part I wanted to get out of this is that if you use Eclipse, for example, and you're subsumed, the damage gets multiplied similarly to the glaives, and it deals a ton more damage when you explode it, that is. If it just hits the enemies directly and you don't explode it, it's scaled normally, but on the explosion itself, it double dips the Eclipse buff. So something to know about, obviously. It is better to use Eclipse than Roar into this weapon, even though we're using Influence and Roar double dips on Influence. The initial damage from this far outweighs that, and obviously because of the Blast Box as well, you just get way more damage. Not that it needs it, again, especially if you have a Riven mode, an even better one than mine. This will absolutely shred through anything in base Steel Path especially, but if you want to push it further, if you want to push it to those high level missions, if you want to take it to something like Cascade level cap, then you would most likely want to use Eclipse as your subsume. Also, one really bad thing about this weapon that I haven't mentioned is that if you're in the air, for some reason you can throw it similarly to the glaive, so you just do the air attack, which is really annoying because this makes it a bad weapon for Wisp. If you could throw it while being airborne, suddenly you can use Wisp's passive while you throw this weapon and the damage would get astronomically high. But sadly, this is not something this weapon has, and I would love for D to look into this and actually making it so that if you're in the air you can still throw the hammer. I don't see why you wouldn't. Like, there is no balance reason behind doing that, it's just pretty much quality of life. On Wisp it just becomes way stronger. And I don't think it's a problem if one Warframe becomes strong with this weapon and, you know, that's it. Already Wisp is absolutely disgusting with any glaive in the game, especially like Falcor or Zoris, but mainly the Falcor, so I don't really see any reason why wouldn't just do this, especially because Wolf Sledge is not really a very popular weapon, and it's mainly due to its acquisition, which, in case you don't know, and I'm sorry for not mentioning this, and I'm sure a lot of people will ask me how to get this weapon in the comments instead of just googling, but there was an event called the Wolf of Saturn 6, which was one of the earlier Nightwave iterations, and on that Nightwave iteration you could fight the wolf Actually, was it an event? No, it was an event. It wasn't Nightwave. It just happened to be in the Nightwave, like as a story, but it happened during the Nightwave. But yeah, you would get a few missions that you would play, and then you could farm the Wolf of Saturn 6 and kill him. And every time you killed him, you would get a random part for this weapon, which some parts were obviously more expensive than others. And yeah, that is basically it. But nowadays, you get it from the same way. The Nightwave rotation sometimes has the so-called Wolf Beacon, and when you're in a mission, you drop the Wolf Beacon and the Wolf of Saturn 6 spawns, and then you just kill him. Anyways, Misery here. I'm gonna just Eclipse him. Whoop. There you go. Big damage. Big damage. In general, this weapon is still really fun as is. I just wish they made it so that I can throw it while being in the air. Because when you're so used to glaives and doing this and then throwing it, you saw me do it a few times by accident. Yeah, it's yeah. Also, I killed Captain War or Corrupted War without even realizing, and now he's yapping my button weapon. I didn't want to kill him, but the weapon just did it anyway. Damage blue is really good. Like, even without the mechanic abuse from Wisp passive and just using Eclipse, we saw on that enemy 7 million electricity proc, which on level cap would kill an enemy, even an Eximus unit in like 3 procs. Not bad. Really, really powerful. So definitely something that you can use all the way up until level cap if you wanted to. And one of the few melees that, just like every melee that you would want to throw or use heavy attack, you don't actually need to mod attacks with ever. You can just, yeah. It's quite fun. Honestly, as a change of throwing a hammer instead of a glaive, that is quite funny. Thankfully, it's also really, really good. I would be very sad if this weapon was actually like bad, you know? It's not comparable to the other hammers, because the other hammers use simply slam attack, and slam attacking is overpowered right now, and always has been. Actually no, not always has been since the Dante Unbound update, my bad. But yeah. It's a hammer that you actually throw and explode, which is completely different. And it works quite well, and it's quite fun. Why the hell did I get 28 Argon Crystals in 5 minutes, by the way? How many kills did I get? Well, not that many. Damn, okay, cool. Yeah, the Wolf Sledge is a really great weapon. Its acquisition method is quite difficult, but if you're lucky, you will see here on Cradle Cranes, you will go scroll down, and there will be something called the Wolf Beacon. Would be around here, because, you know. And the wolf also has these things. He has the chest plate and his armor stuff. That his armor stuff is not really there right now, but you know, keep an eye out. If you see it on Nightwave, you will need to spend your Nightwave creds to get it. And the bad thing about it is that you can only proc it once, but the good thing about it is that if you find a squad and you'll have one of them, you can just do it 1 beacon per mission, and that is gonna be it. And then you can all like get parts from it. It's not guaranteed that you will get the set from 4 tries. It works similarly to how you farm Warframes from bosses, but it will help if you go ahead to recruiting chat and try to find a squad that farms the Wolf of Saturn. Especially when the beacon is up on Nightwave, you should probably find a squad that will actually do that. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine, and I will see you on the next one.